Cancel culture is real. Cross Politic is on the front lines of this battle with the goal of creating a Christian television network and platform where we can't be canceled and where content creators will have the freedom to glorify God. Our goal is to create a space for like-minded businesses to thrive on this platform and to reach an audience that will not only buy your products and services, but also support your business when the heat of cancel culture comes your way. We want our platform to help you create an anti-fragile business as we bring together Christians from all over the world to tune in. With millions of downloads a year, access to DirecTV, Xfinity, and social media outlets, we are excited to partner with you. So, if you own a business and believe in this vision, then you need to call me. I'm Garrison Hardy, and I am the business development rep at Cross Politic and the Fight Laugh Feast Network. We are looking for businesses, large or small, that not only have great products and services, but also understand that the cultural battle that is impacting the business climate here and now. I have a background in marketing, and I'd love to help you advertise your business on Cross Politic. Give me a call at 208-792-1290 or email me at garrison@fightlaughfeast.com.
You had to drop the bass for this one.
Yeah, I need it.
Yep. Yeah! Welcome to the Midweek Fix. Pastor Toby, Chalk Knox. I'm the Water Boy. It's good to be with you. I think we're the fastest growing Christian podcast. And probably not. Maybe. I don't know.
Probably not. No.
If you guys don't know, I know we got a lot of newer listeners over this last year. And if you guys don't know, we're also on DirecTV, TLN, Xfinity, and
we're the fastest growing podcast that got canceled from YouTube.
There we go.
Last week.
Yeah,
there we go.
Probably not either.
So the best way, probably not either.
Come on.
It's so negative. So the best way to get us is you got to download the app. That's the best way.
That's right.
It's going to be the hardest way for them to cancel us. And we actually live stream the show through the app. You got to click on the live stream in the app.
Let me do that right now.
Yeah, do that right now. And then you can screencast it to your Apple TV or whatever. Don't be
dependent. Don't be dependent on big tech.
It's funny to me because we spent 6 years building up that YouTube channel. Had thousands.
5 years.
It's 5 years. 5 years building up that YouTube channel, and kind of working for YouTube, bringing people over to YouTube, people watching on YouTube and consuming YouTube.
Yeah.
And then they cancel us or at least suspend us until November.
Strike two.
Well, that's what people don't understand about social media. This is something that we've been really thinking about a lot.
Right.
On social media, you are either working for them, right, or they are working for you.
That's right.
And it's very hard to have them work for you.
Right.
And so you have to think about, how do I do this? So just posting a lot doesn't mean that they're working for you.
Right.
So how do you do that? So there's a lot of people, by the way, I'm going to let you finish in a second. But right now, a lot of people are asking, how do you use the app? If you go to the app, if you have the app and you're at the home screen, all you have to do is go to more in the bottom right-hand corner.
More.
Hit more, and then you'll see FLF Live, and then it pops up, and you can click right into the live stream and cast that right to your television. So if you're not like, wow, I really love YouTube because I could cast it right to my television. Well, you can still do that right inside. And guess what?
But you can also click on live stream and the banner on the home page.
Yeah, that'd be too simple.
Boom. That's what you do.
Because you have to wait for it to cycle through.
No, it's right there. It just pops up. It's the first one that pops up.
Well, you can do
live stream on the banner.
Click
banner.
it. Does it work? Because I'm gonna get it.
It works.
It's just join.
Yeah,
it's not. Where is it now?
There you go.
It's the banner.
Just click the
live stream. Boom.
It says it's scheduled for 8 o'clock.
No.
No.
Click the red at the top.
Live.
Boom.
There you go.
Let me click it for you. Come on. There we go. You got actually.
Let me click it. You got to click the button.
And so,
there we are.
Yeah. So, you can cast it right to your
So that's in our app. But you can also. The other thing is, we'd appreciate if you actually subscribe to Rumble too.
Let me go to Rumble real quick.
Rumble is kind of a competitor of YouTube. But it's also kind of like run by Russians. Have you noticed? Like the CEO and the COO, they're all Russian. So
they know the difference between boys and girls.
Oh,
stop
Pastor.
it.
You told me to shut up. You hit me.
I mean, it's come to that.
Yeah. Russians are supporting free speech.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we got to be careful, but nevertheless, it's like, when you live in, it's like when people are denying gravity, it's like you kind of got to stick with the people who are like, I believe in gravity.
Yeah. as screwed up as they are.
Listen, we have our orthodoxy, but can we at least agree that there's gravity? No, that's real talk.
I mean, it is. And
That's funny.
so, hey, Dime Payments, speaking of believing in gravity, is a Christian-owned processing payment business. They believe in gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Every business needs a payment processing system, so go to dimepayments.com/FLF. I'll look at this camera, Neil.
Yep.
And sign your business up. Working with them supports us, Cross Politic.
Yeah.
We use them. When you go to them and you tell them that we sent you,
And they'll also get a discount on their processing fee, too.
Dime Payments won't cancel you like
Yep.
Stripe canceled President Trump. They won't cancel you like MailChimp canceled the Babylon Bee.
Or like YouTube.
Canceled Cross Politic.
Yeah, I need to have
Hey,
that.
what's up? Check them out. At least have a phone call. Tell them the Cross Politic sent you. Go to dimepayments.com/FLF.
And they've been great to work with. Their customer service has been fantastic.
They were at the conference, too.
And they're at the conference.
They
and,
believe
yeah.
in gravity.
And we got two university courses coming up.
Oh.
Two Fight Laugh Feast University courses coming up. One is Christian Faith and Technology with Dr. Thomas Price.
Tom Price from the podcast.
Christian Faith and Technology.
From the podcast.
Sign me up.
Yep, this course is an introduction to moral theology and its assessment of spiritual, intellectual, and ethical implications of advanced technology on our lives.
You're going to talk about like robots with guns?
He's probably going to get into all that, self-driving cars, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So Christian Faith and Technology, it starts October 6th, and it'll run for 7 weeks. You can sign up, go to
October 6th.
fightlaughfeast.com, and you can click on our university tab at the top, and you'll get to them. So it's $200 per family household, so your whole family can do it.
Right.
Thomas is live with you guys, discussions. These courses, the feedback's been great because everyone's in the room together.
Yeah.
The other one is Life is Hard with comedian John Brannon. If
Take
you
my
guys,
money.
taking my money for sure. If you guys missed him at the conference, you missed John at the conference.
He was hanging.
He was hanging.
He did that game with you guys at the end.
We did a marriage.
Knox, did you see that game at the end?
I was actually interviewing somebody at the time, so I missed it.
it was pretty funny. He did like the wedding game with 3 couples.
Yep. He
Including-
was trying to sow division.
I think so. Yeah, he was.
One of the questions he asked was, "What do you, what do you not like about your spouse, or something like that?"
What do you like? What do you bear with? Like,
What do you put up with about your spouse? A.D. Robles guessed his show. That his wife put up with his show.
Was he right?
No, he wasn't.
No, what was it? Was it like the documentaries he watches or
Yeah,
something like that? Yeah, he likes watching documentaries, and his wife was like, "Yeah."
She kind of puts up with it,
and he was
you know?
like, "What?"
Yeah,
There we go.
it was pretty funny.
I just found the live show on Rumble. I'm going to share that to Facebook right now. So
Okay. Very good.
Cool.
All right. This I'm not there yet. This is for realtors.
This is for realtors.
Pay attention to this.
Okay, if you're a realtor,
It actually has farther implications than that, but the National, kind of Realtor Association,
Yeah.
the kind of monopoly, basically, that all these realtors are a part of, well, they released their skilled requirements committee. Think of kind of like Robespierre's public health committee kind of thing, right?
okay.
They passed language that said all realtors, that need to follow kind of these kind of code of ethics.
Okay.
And they passed this language that says realtors should not use harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, slurs based mostly on race, color, faith, intercourse.
What?
That's in there. Familial standing, nationwide origin, sexual orientation, or gender.
Wait a second. Why did they spell color with OU?
Allure?
Because that's more.
That's not American English.
No, that's not.
I think this might be in a different country.
No, this is in America.
This is not my America.
This is in America.
where we spell color with a U.
Well,
So
it depends.
it
Depends.
they
The Great
passed-
Reset happened, and I don't know if you know about
That's
that.
true. They passed that language, and then off that language, they gave kind of some case studies of how
What that looks like.
of how to apply it.
So they came out with their 10 Commandments.
That's right.
And now they're giving their case laws.
Yeah, it sounds
Okay.
like
All
Old Testament,
all
right?
Inescapable.
And this is going to be a play that basically, to be a part of the Realtor Association, to be a realtor, to be able to sell houses, you have to follow these code of ethics. So here's the case law they gave us to kind of apply this. And this is actually based on a real life scenario that happened.
Is this from Leviticus?
Might as well be.
Realtor A. So here's the case study. Realtor A was a preacher in his native church. He's also a realtor. So realtor, and he also pastored, right? Said earlier that a bunch of congregants, lesbians and homosexuals, are murderers in line with the scriptures. One of many congregants filed an ethics grievance in opposition to Realtor A, alleging the assertion violated Article 10, which is referring to what I just read to you guys.
Time out, Gabe. I gotta track with this. Are you saying that a preacher in his church said thus?
He said lesbians and homosexuals are murderers in line with the scriptures. That's what he said.
Okay, and then someone filed a complaint from his sermon.
Mm-hmm.
Why does it say his native church? There's still stuff about that. This is weird. This is not American.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
they're just so out of tune.
Native church?
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe they're trying to
follow the link.
I am, but it's a weird website.
No, this is real. This is
Toby
real.
is like, this is not happening. This is not. Keep going.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding you.
You can Google. There's other articles about this.
Okay, I'll look it up. Maybe it's just from a news site that's like that's not American.
Well, this is their actual language for the Realtor Association.
That's probably why it's probably a little weird.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And then so they create this, and then the complaint is heard and argued that the Realtor A's assertion constituted hate speech. And as a result, remarks have been objectively insulting and offensive, and it's found that he's violating the code of ethics
because of him preaching at his church.
Right? And so basically now they have the grounds for taking away his license, his realtor's license. And so here's what struck me about this whole thing was the Realtors Association, their code of conduct is giving the Bible the test. Their code of conduct is saying, no, we're a higher authority than the scriptures and all this. Mm-hmm. We have a higher morality and we have a higher code of conduct, and the Bible has to submit to our code of ethics. And so what's going to happen is realtors who are Christians and who have to follow this new code of ethics, and I think more is coming down the pipe on all this from the Realtor Association and a number of other union associations. All those kind of organizations are going to, I think, be pressing this kind of issue, and you'll lose your electrical license if you go to this church.
Well, I mean, in one way or another, we're already seeing it with vaccines. So, Pastor, your face is looking very, very puzzled.
Just reading about it. I think they amended this back in 2020. Mm-hmm. This is from November 2020, and they're
and if you remember, we actually heard about this, or at least I did. I heard about this coming last year. And so then they amended it, but I wanted to bring it up because here's one of the things that we've been talking about and working on here at Cross Politics is trying to think through how to build a Christian economy,
right?
Yeah,
how to get past this, like these realtor associations, these all these power plays that are going to force Christians out of the companies, out of Amazon, out of the market. We just had the plug from Dime Payments.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we think of how to build a Christian economy, how to do business with one another. One of the things that, Toby, I haven't even ran this by you. This is going to be good for you. Is we actually want to build a realtor association website through Cross Politics.
This is how we have business meetings.
And so Christian realtors.
Are you making a motion?
No, we're already doing it. This is not a motion.
You're getting dragged along.
So people who are looking for realtors to do business with can go to our website.
Yes.
And sign up and say, hey, I'm looking to move to Texas, or I'm looking to move to Florida, I'm looking to move to Moscow. Who's a good Christian realtor I can work with?
Right.
And so, I think so that's part of kind of our way of kind of contributing to like, hey, here's how we can bring Christians together and kind of go around the Realtor Association. Eventually, if we build a strong enough network of Christians doing business with each other, well, we don't even need the realtors licensing anymore.
I actually think that's what God's doing for us.
Yeah, I do too.
We have not. I mean, God is sort of forcing Christians to lead.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you have these associations and these licensing things, what are you doing? You're leading. Well, right now we've been led by pagans and people who hate God.
Well, yeah,
people who don't believe in gravity.
You're submitting to their code of ethics.
And again, if you there's not anything necessarily sinful of working in Babylon. You're Daniel and the three friends, but Christianity means leadership. Christianity means taking dominion. That's what Jesus didn't come and die and rise again in order to lose.
Right.
He came, and then he sends us out into the world to make disciples. We're supposed to be discipling the nations, not being discipled by the nations. Right. And this includes all these things. And so I think this whole shakedown, the vax thing, I think these kinds of insane cancel culture things, get out, leave. Yeah. I mean, and I think across the board, find your people, find other Christians, work together, produce a better product.
I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he has this business that he has built up. They got 12 employees. They're doing really pretty well. Yeah. And he's not quite passionate about it. There's other things he'd like to do. And I was telling him, I said, man, think generationally. Like, think about how you can build your business up and you can pass it down to your kids.
That's good.
And because, we've talked about this on the show before. It's like Christians have abandoned the concept of passing down generational wealth to their kids and building things up. And let's say if you want to sell your company, you build up this company, you want to sell it, we'll sell it to some other Christians.
Sure.
Like, stop selling it away to the pagans for them to kind of reap all the benefits of all your hard work for 10, 20 years.
First of all, I want to say, I see y'all on Rumble. Salute all y'all over there on Rumble. And I'm watching the Rumble chant, Rumble rant. So if you guys say anything on Rumble, I'm going to respond to it or ask these guys if you have any questions. Okay. Something that's really been hitting me lately, I was talking just yesterday with Jason Farley. We were talking about Gnosticism and the eschatology of Gnosticism. But it's hit me how much that Christians have forgotten about the future. And when we were at the conference this past week now, there was a question.
Seems like yesterday.
It does. It really does. I haven't recovered from it yet. It's so good. It's like a sugar coma. You can just still taste it and feel it. But there was a question at the end of talking about how do we balance between Christians who are supposed to be leaving this world and going to this next world and engaging the world that we're in right now. And that really bothered me. The question did, because I think that's where most Christians are. And this is why the Great Reset is winning. This is why the idea of a recreation of the world is winning, is because Christians have forgotten the actual story and the narrative of Genesis. The world was for man to conquer. The world was for man to redo what God had did in the garden. That was the intention. When Adam sinned, he didn't just lose the relationship with God. He lost the ability to do what God told him to do well, right? And so when Christ has come and redeemed man, that same situation that Adam had before the fall, Christ has now restored. So you are to go out in the power of the gospel to do the very thing that Adam was supposed to do in the beginning.
Right.
We have disconnected that story from how we are operating right now, and we've gotten the salvation thing, and we get that, but then it has no practical reality in the world whatsoever. And it's like you're restored. Your relationship with Christ also restores your relationship to your brother and to the world that you're actually living in, so that the world gets transformed. And the people who are getting this, the people who are understanding this, are the pagans. The pagans are saying this world needs to change. Marx, he was after that, right?
This has been Merkel.
Right, exactly. This is, man, you were hitting it dead on.
He started off his talk at our rally, and he said, I don't know if you're post-mill or not, but at least the liberals are thinking that way.
Right.
So maybe Christians, they might be pre-mill, all-mill, whatever.
You may not be post-mill or Paedo-Baptist, but the world is.
Yeah, but the left is.
The pagans are.
That is so good.
And they're recreating the world. Right? That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do, is recreate. And so what this is a new Levitical law, right? That's coming down and say, hey, this is the new world and this is how you're going to have to operate in it. And
here's our case law.
Right. And this is where Christians are going to have to say, no, that's a lie from the world that God has made. Right. That is not the real world. And we're going to have to stand up and say no. And so what we're doing now is what God has forced us to do is say, we're going to see clearly 2020, the people who are going to say, no, that's not the world God had created. You don't get to have that. You can't have her. It's unlawful for you to have her, right? Same what John did. Or say, the way that you're talking about the world God has made is right. That's the two options we are having right now. Right. And so regardless of what people, this is why John MacArthur was so important in this last one. Yeah. Because regardless of his eschatology and regardless of how he understands, practically how the world should run, he gets something so right that it kind of puts the rest of those things at bay.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, if you get this right, buddy, you're more with us than you think you are.
Yeah, exactly. When you talking about spheres,
you on the team, you just don't want to claim it.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a book, Thomas Sowell, Black Rednecks and White Liberals.
Yes.
Which is really fantastic.
It's very interesting.
Piles in on this, sort of common grace on fire. But the point he's talking about how across cultures, across the world, how minorities succeed over and over again.
Yep.
It was one of the points in the book, and the thing that he points out is just world over, having family intact, working long hours at things that no one else wants to do but need to be done, and then patience over generations. And he says
that's covenantal.
That's the key.
Wow.
Family intact, working long hours, doing those things that no one else wants to do but need to be done, and everybody needs.
Yeah.
He calls them middlemen.
Middleman.
You find the middleman position, the thing that everybody needs, is some kind of transportation, some kind of service industry, and then. But he says, but nobody wants to do that because the early returns aren't huge.
No, that's right.
But they build.
Yeah, that's right.
And then slowly over generations, it starts to exponentially explode.
Right.
And you own businesses, you own franchises and stuff. But the point is, absolutely, it's covenantal. It's exactly the way God made the world. I mean, read Proverbs. That's what Proverbs is about. Work hard, be faithful to your wife, and think long term.
Come on, preach, preacher.
Think long term. And if Christians are willing to do that, it really it's just a matter of math.
Right.
You talked about the math of children before, but it's the math of just
generational wealth.
If you work harder, under the blessing of God, and again, God is sovereign, and some of us will get cancer and die young. Some of us will have tragedies in our families, and I mean, it's not going to all be just pie in the sky.
Right.
No,
but Proverbs says, all things being equal, this is the way God made the world, guys. This theme of this show is gravity exists.
Right. That's exactly right.
God made gravity.
Yeah.
God made the world, and it works this way.
Yep.
Stay married to your wife, love your kids, work harder.
Yep.
That's right.
And then work harder the next day, work harder the next year, and then think generationally. Think about your kids and your grandkids.
So the Brookings Institute, which is a liberal think tank,
Yes.
basically came to the same conclusions. They came up with basically, you want to not live in poverty, you want to get out of poverty. Yeah. They said graduate high school. That's it. Graduate high school, and then don't have kids out of wedlock. Those were like the two. There's one other thing, I forget what it was, but those are the three things they're saying, and two of the three were like basically graduate high school, and then don't have kids out of wedlock, and you're on the path to not living in poverty.
Right. Yeah, it's believe it or not, guys, kind of made it that simple, like gravity.
It's gravity,
and it has a trajectory. That's what we were talking about this. Your eschatology actually matters,
right?
Because it's actually pointing to what you believe about Genesis, right? Genesis has a trajectory. It's going to a particular place, and so how you understand that really has a trajectory on what's your eschatology. Well, what is God doing in the world? God is transforming it, right? It's bringing heaven to earth.
Right.
How does he do that? Being faithful, right?
Right. And this again is part. This is the gravity. Like he
Yes.
created the world for this.
Yes.
He created the world to be glorified by mankind. He created it to be served and worked.
Yes.
By those who bear his image.
Before you go, I want to know what's in because you got packages over here.
Oh, I forgot.
And I'm looking at these packages like I want the stuff.
Yeah.
What is it? What's in it?
Speaking of gifts, Founders Ministries.
Ooh, I think I know what's in here.
This one is for Gabriel Wrench.
Oh.
And this one is for David Shannon.
Yes.
And
is this from Jared?
I think I know what this is.
And
I think I know what this is.
I mean, I don't mind you guys having presents and everything,
you don't need any.
but
What is this? I knew it. A book on theonomy.
A book on theonomy.
A book on theonomy. I knew it.
Tom Askell?
Just Thinking.
Came out with their book. That's right.
Daryl and Virgil.
And the foreword by John
MacArthur. That's fantastic.
Just Thinking about the state.
Man.
It's okay, Tom, and Hannah and
Yeah,
Jared.
that's okay.
All y'all. I didn't need one. It's okay.
That's-
I mean, you can just give
You forgot about pastors?
presents to Gabe and Knox.
Founders forgot about pastors?
Hold on. I don't know what that means. means. That might actually mean we need this more than you do. So it could be a compliment and you just not knowing.
Right.
That's funny.
I just want to say about this book. Now, they ain't going to be happy with me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. This book is probably introductory book into theonomy. So I'm really excited about this book. It really is.
Yeah.
I don't look. People, you only have
You need a good intro into theonomy because, like David, Greg Bonson's book on theonomy is
it's thick. Yeah,
thick. So
But
this is a good intro into Greg Bonson's
and it's by
book.
all my favorite people, and they had never claimed to be theonomists, but they writing great.
We love you,
books on
Daryl
it.
and Virgil.
So,
all right,
and
have
y'all
you-
can come on and talk about this book anytime you want.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys been. I've been paying attention to this, but like right now, all the conservative states are where all the COVID spikes are happening. Right, it's always conservative states that are a problem. Right, and California right now, they said after their summer spike are at their lowest COVID levels. I think they're getting through herd immunity is what I think is happening. But anyways, Idaho is one of those states where everything's supposedly spiking and the hospitals are getting into critical standards of care threshold.
Right.
Okay. But it's also important to note. So I've been talking and messaging with a number of nurses and doctors in Idaho about this because we're in this critical standard of care threshold. But one of the things, how they determine that is how many beds are in the hospital and how many staff or nurses are available to serve those beds.
That's right.
Okay.
And both, I've been talking to different hospitals, and so they define it by how many beds and how many staff they have to serve.
Yeah.
And they said when the pandemic started in March 2020, you remember, one of the industries that lost the most jobs in a pandemic was the medical industry, healthcare.
Yep.
Which you kind of need that in a
and-
pandemic, I'm guessing.
But because all the non-essential services were completely killed.
Yep.
They
stopped routine surgeries.
they set up all the tents and they said we're going to have a pandemic. It's going to be bubonic plague, and if you don't have COVID, stay away.
Yep.
Which
And so
caused
they lost. So one of the people I've been talking to, they lost 20% of their nurses back when the pandemic started.
Right.
And they haven't recovered that staff.
Right.
They have not recovered that staff. Some of those nurses started doing travel nurse work, which is really good pay. You get a lot of money for that, and so they didn't come back. And so now they're defining this critical standard of care based off this new threshold where you have where your staff is you aren't staffed up as much.
And I'm not sure it's a new threshold. I think it may be the same one.
I'm saying it's a new threshold in the sense that they don't have the same amount of staff.
Sure. Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
It's not a new standard.
Right.
But,
That's right.
But when you lose 20 or 30% of your staff,
And they've artificially created.
yes, and they've shot themselves in the foot, and then they've said we're having a pandemic of foot wounds.
So here's our solution in Idaho.
Unvaccinated.
Here's our solution in Idaho. Governor Little, just this last week, is sending $10 million in relief to the hospitals overwhelmed with COVID patients. $10 million only. In a pandemic, when all these people are coming to use your hospital, how is it that you need more money? Aren't you getting doesn't demand go up in a pandemic and you make more money?
Well,
Why do hospitals need more money?
Well, because they don't have enough staff.
yes.
It's the I think the real lie is, so what I would like to know statistically, which we do not know, is we are still not making a careful distinction between hospitalized for COVID
Or with.
and hospitalized with COVID.
that's right.
We need to make that distinction.
They don't want to make that distinction.
But-
600,000 people died in this pandemic.
I'm just saying, there's at least even now there's an Atlantic article pointing that out
Yep.
and how statistically that leaves us in the dark.
Yep.
The Atlantic people. This is not
about that?
fringe. The Atlantic. Okay, that makes a difference. Okay, that matters. We need to make that distinction, and then we need to actually compare numbers and say what are these caseloads and how do they compare to previous years,
Yep.
and so on, because they're asserting this over and over again, driving panic, saying we have this COVID crisis, hospitals are being flooded with COVID patients, and I don't believe any of them.
Yeah.
And
Didn't the Atlantic say like 50%, about almost 50% of the patients
that
had mild or hardly?
Yes, and they were in there for other things.
And
they
then
were
they found out
hospitalized
that-
for other things. They test positive for COVID.
Yeah.
and then in a lot of cases, it's all getting thrown into the same pile and saying our hospitals are being overrun by COVID.
Did you say thrown into the same pile? I thought this would be a great time, especially since we're now on Rumble, to talk about poopy water. Because I don't know if Rumble's heard this yet, so I'm just going to say for the people watching on Rumble, this is what happens. And this is what I call poopy water. When everybody can see that there is...
Hang on, we're freezing real quick. The internet needs to reboot.
Okay, so I should save this for...
save the poopy water until we go live again.
Okay, well, I'm back live. I don't,
Are you live?
I'm
okay.
live.
All right.
So here's the deal. So this is the world. Let's say that there's a room, and there's the room that has a mess on the floor, and everybody can see that this thing is dirty. Everybody sees that it's dirty. Yeah. So everybody's like, okay, you know what we need to do? We need to clean this up. Yeah. Well, what the world does as they go to clean this thing up is they go get the mop bucket that has feces in the water. And they take...
Why would they do that?
Because they are dead in their transgressions and sins.
Okay.
Yeah. And they don't see how the world works.
They're desperate.
And they think that they have the ability in their own sin and brokenness to be able to fix a problem that is actually supernatural. That's why. Mm-hmm. And so what they end up doing is taking that bucket and they mop the whole floor with that poopy water, thinking that, hey, this will clean up the mess. But what it's actually doing is making it worse. Yeah. And this is exactly what we're doing with the whole medical situation. We thought that what we would do in trying to shut down this virus is, hey, everybody go home, don't do anything. Mm-hmm. But what do we lose? We lose. Have you guys been paying attention? Yeah. There are nobody working jobs right now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was over at Rose Hours. And they are telling me they can't get anybody to sign up for a job. That wasn't going on a year and a half ago. Not at that level.
Well, you get checks coming in.
Right. Yeah. Right. Poopy water. Just getting right through the mail, right? It's not, right. And nobody wants to work. And so what they've done now is created a whole nother problem. Now they have a people coming into the hospital for all kinds of different reasons, has nothing to do with COVID. And here they are trying to service them, but they don't have the employees. Why? Because you got rid of all of them.
Right. Well, and now you're also doing mandates, vaccine mandates on all these people too. So they got sent home, and then it's like, the good ones you had left, they don't want to stay either. Mm-hmm. They're like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not doing your experimental drug. Mm-hmm. I want to protect myself, my family, whatever.
Alienated 40% of their workforce,
and then more of them are just quitting or leaving because of that.
That's right.
They're shooting themselves in the foot, and then they're calling it a COVID crisis. Yeah. No, it's not a COVID crisis. It's a statist crisis.
Exactly.
Right. Stop trying to solve everything as the state.
That's right.
You need to submit yourself to God and do what He says your job is to do.
That's right, Toby.
Get back in your lane.
Status crisis. So, speaking of status, so the other thing that has been on my radar this last month is all the government organizations that are posting information about ivermectin. And
but you know what? I just want to say right now, if we was on YouTube, our stream would be so done right now.
I just said ivermectin, and I'm on Rumble though. Yeah,
we'd be so done
I said it.
now.
So yesterday, our Idaho Department of Health and Welfare posted this: ivermectin will not keep you from getting COVID-19.
Time out. We already know
is anybody arguing that?
I don't know.
The vaccine won't keep you from getting COVID-19.
Right.
All right. And then they go on to say it's not approved or recommended as a treatment for COVID-19 and can have severe side effects when used inappropriately. Actually, the side effects aren't that severe. It's like headaches, diarrhea, stuff like that.
But have they written like the side effects for the vaccine yet?
No.
Okay. No. I'm just wondering because they didn't do one of the. Okay, keep going.
The spreading of this false information
smells like poopy water.
Goes against our mission to strengthen the health and safety and independence of Idahoans. Oh my goodness. We want to provide a platform for all Idahoans to discuss issues and topics related to the Department of Health and Welfare, but we will block you if you threaten our staff or post multiple comments that promote information that is false or misleading. So I posted this in that thread. Okay. This is from a study from the National Center for Biotechnology. Okay. The National Medical Library. Okay. And it said, this is the summary or a partial summary from the abstract. Since March 2020, when ivermectin was first used against a new global surge, COVID-19, more than 20 randomized clinical trials, RCTs,
the most trusted resource, by the way,
have tracked such inpatient and outpatient treatment. 6 of the 7 meta-analysis of the ivermectin, I can say here on Rumble, treatment RCTs.
Randomized control testing.
Yep, randomized control reporting in 2021. So 20 to 2021, they had about a year to do all this stuff, found notable reductions in COVID-19 fatalities with a mean of 31% relative risk for mortality versus controls. During a mass IVM treatments, ivermectin, in Peru, excess deaths fell by 74% over 30 days in 10 states with the most extensive treatments. Reduction in deaths correlated with the extent of ivermectin distributions in all 25 states with, less than 0.002. Sharp reductions in morbidity using ivermectin were also observed in 2 animal models, so they did this testing on animals, and SARS-CoV-2 and a related beta coronavirus.
We call that beta coronavirus.
Beta, oh, the words, okay. Yeah. The indicated biological mechanism of IVM competing binding with a SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. So this is how it seems to be working. The biological mechanism of how ivermectin can kind of bind to the SARS virus is likely a non-epitope specific. So it's likely non-epitope specific, possibly yielding full efficacy against emerging viral mutant strains. So I wanted to read that whole thing because that's from the abstract of the study. You can go. We get the link will be in the show notes.
Yep,
and you can go actually read the whole study
at the National Institute of Health
of biotechnology under the Library for Medicine. And so I posted that in the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, and someone responded and said, it's recommended as a treatment, not a cure.
Sure.
To me. And I said, when I posted it in the Idaho Department, I said, hey, this is actually a good, helpful treatment. I even said treatment in my post, and then I linked to the study that talked about as a treatment.
Right.
And I Knox pointed this out earlier and said, we're just in a different world now. Mm-hmm. Like information and logic and reasoning and even the ability to read. like our capacity to read, and the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare,
Gabe,
they're literally posting misinformation about ivermectin.
Gabe, it's not a cure.
Which is what I said.
But you know what,
I said it's a plausible treatment.
But here's the deal.
Also, it won't keep you from getting it.
And then there's also another link I can actually post in the show notes where it has 63 studies. Dr. Cole sent this to me. Okay. Dr. Ryan Cole, who's been on our show before, he sent this to me, where there's been 63 different studies on ivermectin regarding how its treatment for COVID-19.
Right.
63 studies.
This is why, and I don't doubt this, but this is why this is more than just about the coronavirus. This is why it's more than just about what's happening right now as far as people being sick. Because if you are in a situation where you can find anything that can give you 73% of an asset to help people stay alive, you don't say it doesn't fix it. You say, praise God.
Right.
That's useful. We should be using this. This is a tool to help us. Yeah. Some people,
and maybe it's not a treatment that's suited for everybody.
But we can use it.
Your doctor,
we
whatever.
Understand that.
Yeah, of course.
But if you're in a situation where this thing is kicking your butt, any sort of thing that comes to cover your flank, you jump at. Mm-hmm. And the fact that people aren't doing that is like there is something else. This is, guys, we are in a spiritual battle.
We really are.
I mean, if you can't see that, you don't understand what's happening right now.
How come abortion is a decision between your doctor and you? And yet COVID-19, vaccines, ivermectin, all this stuff is not a decision between your doctor and you.
Pastor Toby.
He's pulling out the Bible.
This is about to get good. I'm getting my organ ready. What you about to do?
Preach up. I think the insanity, the level, the depth of just insanity is supernatural. I made this point in my talk at the conference.
Yeah.
But I don't think we Christians quite have yet grasped the nature of this supernatural problem. Mm. It's not merely that we are utterly and completely spiritually blind. It's not merely that there are probably evil spiritual forces at work driving much of this. Principalities and powers, whatever, spiritual forces of darkness. I mean, you name it. And it's not merely any of those things. I don't think we have yet quite grasped the fact that what we are up against is God himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
God is the one doing this. God is doing this.
That's good.
And I don't think American Christians, many of us have even category for this. Wait, God? Yeah. Why would God do this to us? Yeah. Because he hates us.
Yeah.
Because we rebelled against him.
He hates what we're doing. Right? We are under the covenantal curses of God. Mm-hmm. This is what it looks like. I mean, read Deuteronomy 32. This is what I was looking at. I mean, when God is angry with a people, he comes after them.
Is that Old Testament? Because I don't know if that.
He comes after them.
Is it in red? Is it in red?
It's in Revelation too.
Oh, okay. Jesus
rides a horse covered in blood because he warns the churches in the beginning of Revelation. If you turn away from me, if you worship idols, if you give into sin, I will
judge you.
I will remove your lampstand, and I will come and destroy you. And what are we living in? We are living in. I mean, when God, it says in Romans 1, when we do not worship God and serve Him as Creator, that's like again gravity.
Right.
There is a God. There is a fixed nature to the world because there is a maker. When you turn away from God, what happens? God gives you over to insanity, to your darkness, to your folly, to your sodomy. Who is the one who does that? God. Right? Why do we have sodomites parading in our streets? Because God has given us over. He's on the other side of this. He's the one giving us over to this insanity. And the same thing in Proverbs, the man who falls into adultery, it says, is abhorred by God. Why do people fall into adultery? Because God hates them.
Yeah.
Why does God hate them? Because they've been sinning up a storm.
Yeah.
Because they've had hard hearts, that He's given them opportunity after opportunity to repent of their sins, and they refuse. And so finally God says, that's it. I'm giving you over.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done.
Yeah.
And what does a man who's hardened himself in sin do? He just runs pell-mell into adultery, destroys his own life, destroys his own world. And God has done that to us in this nation.
And I think, conservative Christians, kind of patriots, kind of that crowd for the last 40 years has, or I'd say in the 80s and 90s, they thought, hey, everything's going okay, pretty well for us. We have the moral majority. We have, America's doing well. We're patriots. Everyone, God bless America. All that stuff. Everyone felt kind of intact in the 80s and 90s.
I don't think so.
And things weren't. No, I'm just saying this is what they saw, what conservative Christians and kind of the patriot crowd saw. They didn't think things were that bad. I think they think about it now.
No, I think they did think things were that bad.
I disagree. Anyways,
go ahead.
Proverbs says that you can't touch coals and not be burned.
Yeah.
And I think the church has been playing with coals, thinking that they can't be burned. And you see this in how the devil tricks us, how the devil lies to us, how we believe lies, and we think that, I can have lustful thoughts and not be burned. Or I can, or the church can kind of dabble in silly worship music that is modeled after the world and not be burned. We're in it. We're in it 100%.
Well, and Gabe, this is why I'm disagreeing with you a little bit, is because I think the play that they ran with the majority, conservative majority,
more majority, Newt
right,
Gingrich,
it was the play of not repenting.
Right.
What we did was we grasped after the last stand of power.
We're going to pass a Defensive Marriage Act.
We exercised in critical race theory as much as we could. Yeah. That's what we did. We went for the power to try and bend everybody to the world that we wanted to live in, instead of falling to our knees like they did in Chronicles, seeing the borders were gone and broken, and repent. Right. Put worship back right. That's not what they were working on. No. They weren't working on putting worship right.
That's the point, is when you're up against God, then the only thing you can do is plead with God.
That's right. There's no one else.
When God is angry at you, when God's wrath is upon you, when God's curses are upon you, you can't vote yourself out of this.
That's right.
You can't vote yourself sane.
That's right.
You can't vote yourself back into the blessing of God. I mean, that's the height of hubris and arrogance.
That's right.
Like, I got this. Yep. No, you don't. You don't understand. He's hunting us down. I mean, that's the language that is what he says, that he comes after us. It says, I will heap mischiefs upon them. I will spend my arrows upon them. They will be burnt with hunger. They will be devoured with burning heat and bitter destruction. I will send the teeth of beasts on them and the poison of serpents on them, the sword without and terror within.
Wow.
Does any of this sound familiar?
Wow.
I will destroy young men and virgins, nursing infants and the man of great hairs. I said I would scatter them to the corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. It just goes on.
And you can't be a culture that kills babies for 40 years and not be burned.
Exactly.
You can't be a culture that endorses homosexuality and not be burned.
No, right. Our biggest problem has been Imago Dei for a long time.
Right. And not be burned.
You don't get to do that. And
They are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000, or two put 10,000 to flight? Wow. Except their rock had sold them, and the Lord shut them up.
Wow. That's like Romans 1.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And it's exactly the same. It's a covenantal judgment.
Right.
And so, I mean, our problem is not the left.
We have a coronavirus chasing millions.
Our problem is not the alphabet jihadists.
That's right.
Our problem is not with rhinos.
That's right.
Our problem is not with. Our problem is that we have sinned.
Yeah.
And God is the one who is chasing us.
Right.
And you can't get out of this insanity, this complete. I mean, this is judgment.
Right. And here's the thing: is if the church repents here in America, we're outnumbered.
Yeah.
We're out, but you want to be outnumbered under the blessing of God, or be outnumbered under the judgment of God?
And in the same book, in Deuteronomy, when it describes the blessings of God, it says one will chase 1,000.
It turns it around.
Well,
you don't need numbers if God is with you.
And
right.
so in Chronicles, when you see that the worship is restored, what's happening in the situation? What's the story? The whole city has no borders. The enemy king is coming. Yeah. They have no way to defend themselves. They go to worship, and while they're at worship, the enemies that are coming against them fight against each other and kill each other.
Yeah, they ambush each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And the angel comes through and slays the rest of them, right?
Yeah,
and then what do they do after they get done with worship? They walk out and collect the spoils.
Right.
God fought for his people at the point that they're repenting of their sin.
Right.
Because that's who they had the problem with.
That's good, Knox.
That's right. Right. And one other thing to add to this is the other point that needs to be held closely with all of this is I'm not saying we can't ask God to bless America.
Right.
I'm not saying we can't ask God to have mercy on America. I'm just saying it has to be done in Jesus' name, meaning we're under the blood. Yeah. We're covered in blood, and so we have to be under blood. Right. And God's judgments are surgical. Yeah. That's one of the things that I don't think we realize is that, even when Sodom and Gomorrah was as wicked as they were, Abraham talks God down to 10. There weren't even 10, and God in his kindness rescues, 4, 3 and a half.
Yeah. But still kind, though.
But the mercy of God is surgical, even when his judgments are falling. Yeah. And that's why you find your people, you find your church community, your family, you're repenting of your sins, you're seeking God's mercy and kindness in Christ, knowing that we deserve his judgments. Right. God's mercy is there.
Yep.
And we've noticed that even here in Moscow, even we've been, we have problems and challenges and so on, but at the same time, as these judgments are falling, there's various ways in which we're just seeing God's blessing in the midst of this.
That's right.
God's judgments and blessings are surgical. He's not like the Biden administration blowing up cars with kids in them. Right?
He hits his target.
That's right. He hits his target. That's good, Toby. Yep.
And he always protects his people who recognize and see what's going on, but recognize that if you see what's going on, that's the blessing of God already.
That's right.
These people that don't see what's going on, they're under the judgments of God. They're completely confused and blind.
So I want to use this. We're going to end the show right now. I think this is really important to land right here real quick. Hold on real quick. Hold on. 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes. Give me 3 more minutes. Yeah, 3 more minutes.
Okay.
We talked earlier, like logic's out the door, the ability to read's out the door, and it's all falling under this judgment. But where we're going is I think it's not going to be pretty. So this is happening in Australia right now, and this is the fruit of the Idaho Health Department lying to us, the government lying to us, the government sending $10 million to hospitals, the Realtors Association saying this is your code of ethics that you need to fall under, and this is the fruit of all these lies.
No, this is the fruit of porn.
That's right.
Attention. This is a police public order warning. You have previously been directed to leave. Leave now or force may be used. No further warnings will be given.
Wow. What are they shouting?
We couldn't make out what they were shouting.
It sounds like "Lest we fight." I don't know. I know that they were shouting earlier. There's been a chant "Lest we forget." Has been, but that doesn't sound like that unless they're saying it faster. But
so this is Melbourne, Australia.
Right.
This is the workers' union employees who are protesting because their union officials
sold them out.
Yes, actually said required vaccination mandates in the union, and they weren't going to do it at first, and then they sold them out, and now the employees are like, "No, we ain't doing it."
Uh-huh.
And
what's crazy though is
Are they
you have
saying
this.
let us work?
That could be. Yeah, I don't know what.
I
Somebody
couldn't
tell me what they're saying, because I couldn't
if you
make
know
it
in
out.
Rumble or whatever.
If you speak Australian,
Yeah. And what's crazy about this is all those cops that are lined up with horses, shields, like this battle gear. And then you have that one cop say, "This is your last warning. Force will be used."
yeah. Well, I've seen the
This-
video. Have you
this is
seen
where
the
we're
video? I've seen other videos where the crowd actually overruns cops.
Yeah, I've seen that
Have you
too.
not seen
Yeah,
those?
yeah.
I
I've
mean,
seen that
that's
too.
actually overrunning them.
Yep.
Like cops just get trampled
Yep.
and pushed out of the way, and crowds just pouring. I think it was Australia as well.
Yeah, it was.
I don't
I
know
saw
if it's
that
the
too.
same scene, but
This is what happens when reason and logic is done with your society. When you're done, you can't talk and reason with people.
Right.
Violence. What's the next step? Violence.
Right.
You know, this is something though that, as I was thinking about this, I'm like, that if you stop and you take back a piece of time and look at everything, this is happening around the world. This is not happening in one little vacuum of one place.
Right.
This is a worldwide thing where all the governments, everything, this is all happening.
Yep.
It's big and everywhere.
Right.
Which is, in one sense, is encouraging if listen to what you said earlier, because God is doing this everywhere.
he's
You know-
Jesus is doing this everywhere.
Yes.
Jesus is marching through all these nations.
That's right.
He is giving us over to the insanity of our unbelief. And at the same time, I mean, I know there are people in these crowds that don't know what spirit they're of.
Yeah.
Either.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right.
There's evil spirits in those crowds as well, but there's also something in many of these people in these crowds who know. But wait a sec, I believe in gravity.
Well, that's
I believe there's a God.
I haven't gone insane.
I believe 2 and 2 is 4. I can see what's happening before my eyes, and so the hope is that Christ has not given everybody over to the insanity.
That's right.
He's given a lot of our leaders over to the insanity. He's given a lot of our people over to the insanity. But he's also given many people eyes to see and ears to hear.
Yeah.
And I think, this is a glorious opportunity to preach the gospel. It's a glorious opportunity to find your people, gather to your communities where you are committed to repenting of sin, where you recognize that the insanity that's out there still resides in your heart.
That's right. That's right.
The violence that's out there is in your heart when you hate your brother, when you're bitter at your mom, when
That's
you're
right.
angry at your kids, when you do not forgive your spouse. When you are being murderous in your heart, you're being a rioter.
Yeah.
You're being a tyrant. Just like they are. And so repent of your sins, get under the blood, confess your sins to one another, forgive quickly, worship God, work hard, raise your kids. That's the battle plan. And it's happening all over the world.
Yep.
Why? Well, because the nations of the earth have been given to Jesus.
Amen.
Right? They're coming. He was lifted up. You can't stop this.
Right.
Yeah.
Jesus wins.
Amen.
he's currently
And
fixing-
all sin leads
you
to violence.
just gonna keep
all,
talking.
all sin leads to violence.
Yeah. All sin is violence.
If you're single, get married, because if I don't do this, Gabe's going to keep talking. If you're married, have kids.
Wait,
if you
wait.
have kids, go baptize them until Sunday. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politics.